Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k 8th edition reveal video. Today we'll be doing another faction focus video, Know Thy Enemy. Today we'll be looking at the Dark Eldar. For some reason they've been given some weird name, the Drukari, which a lot of people online are taking the piss saying they are the Drew Carey. Drew Carey faction now. So if you don't know who Drew Carey is, go and Google him. I think he's an actor. Bit of a funny looking chap. Anyway, we're going to call them the Dark Eldar. Fuck Games Workshop on their copyright bullshit. We're going to call them the Dark Eldar. Right. The Dark Eldar. They have, as we all know, they are traditionally a faction which flies around in paper-thin transports, blowing the shit out of people. But if you're able to bring some firepower to bear on them, they generally do fold quite quickly. And Games Workshop are keen to point out that is what the Dark Eldar are going to continue to do. They're going to be very shooty focused, but they are also going to have some pretty deadly close combat units. So let's get into it. Let's have a look. Right. Essentially, let's have a look. I'm just having a quick look through. Yep, here we go. So, Raiders are going to be buffed, is what they've said. They are going to be really, really fast. Expect Raiders full of warriors and witches to be hitting your frontline squads turn one. Just accept that. Venoms as well will be absolutely vital. Dark Eldar are going to be able to carry out a turn 1 alpha strike. We're going to have to accept this. Okay? Now, Dark Eldar poisoned weapons have been not changed per se, but it's been confirmed that their poison weapons will take advantage of the new table, which means that all Dark Eldar weapons will be able to wound anything on a 6+, just like everyone else. There was a bit, I believe there was a bit of worry that poisoned would be not subjected to the same to wound table, but it is. So Dark Eldar. So be aware, guys, that things like Venoms, which traditionally were able to put out 12 splinter cannon shots, they will be able to target your Lehman Russes now. They will be able to wound them. So be careful, because Dark Eldar can put out an absolutely insane amount of firepower. We don't know the specific poisoned rules. Okay, we don't know that. We just know that Dark Eldar poison weapons will be able to affect vehicles now. Okay? Couple of other important bits though. Raiders, they are open-topped. Open-top vehicles still allow you to shoot out of them. Okay, a massive benefit, but no real change there from 7th edition. What is a change is that if a vehicle is locked in close combat, if you are armed with a pistol and you're in an open-top vehicle, you can shoot your pistol out into the combat. So, to explain that a bit better, imagine you have a squad of Dark Eldar warriors and they've got splinter rifles and splinter pistols. What you could do is you can drive your raid, turn 1, drive your raider nice and close to the enemy, unload into the enemy with your splinter rifles and then charge the vehicle in. If the enemy stays locked in combat, what you can do is then in the next turn you can shoot your pistols into the combat that you're in with the vehicle. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So that's interesting. Shooting pistols into combat whilst in a vehicle is kind of, that gives the passengers a lot of... That essentially means that each passenger is going to get one attack, essentially. That's really cool. Now, going on, they start talking about some of the other Dark Eldar weapons apart from the splinter cannon. So, for example, they talk about the Ravagers. Now, Ravagers are similar, for those of you that don't know, Ravagers are essentially gunboats. They're very similar to Raiders, slightly tougher, but they boast 3 big guns on them, either Dark Lances or Disintegrators. We have an idea of how lance weapons are going to work now, guys. This is important for both if you're facing Dark Eldar and any other lance weapons, right? The Dark Lance is now strength 8, so it's still 1 strength lower than the las cannon, but to represent the lance special rule, it is AP -4. So you can essentially think of Dark Lances now as really long range melters. They also do D6 damage per shot. So 3 Dark Lances will basically mean nothing in the game will get an armor save against them, and they'll do D6 damage per shot. Perfect. On average, each one of your Ravagers is going to be slinging down 6 wounds a shooting phase. That's pretty big. If they're lucky, they can get 18. And they'll be fast. So be aware, guys. Ravagers are going to, a pair of Ravagers will easily smoke a Leman Russ turn. Easily. So be careful, guys. The Disintegrator is a very, very interesting weapon. Each Disintegrator fires 3 shots and is AP -3. So they fire more shots than the Dark Lance, but it means often people will at least be getting like a 6. Often Space Marines will at least be getting a 6+ save. The big news, though, is that each shot does 2 damage, which means, in theory, Disintegrators will be doing the same amount of wounds as Dark Lances, but your opponents will often get a save against them. So you fire that means each Disintegrator can do 6 wounds total, which means Disintegrators can do a potential of 18 wounds. My thinking is, guys, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe Disintegrators will probably be spammed quite heavily. Because that guarantee, people are going to be going with guarantees. That, Math Hammer and building strategies is a lot better when you can rely on fixed outcomes. I think a lot of people are going to get frustrated with Dark Lances because I imagine a lot of people are going to be, D6 wounds, I got a 1. With the Disintegrator, it's like, okay, wound, guess what? That's 2 wounds done to you. So, I think Disintegrators, each one will be firing, 9 shots? That means 6 hits. Against a lot of opponents, that's going to translate into 4 wounds, but that's actually going to be 8 wounds. That's pretty devastating in comparison to the Dark Lances, where you'll get 2 hits and you might get 2 wounds. Let's be generous and assume that both of those hits wound. That then means, on average, you're only going to get 6 wounds to those Dark Lances. So again, I think it's kind of like the difference between the battle cannon and the auto cannon in for guard. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Disintegrators, guys. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of Disintegrators. So be careful of Disintegrators. They are going to be absolutely shredding transports, absolutely shredding vehicles with their reliable 2 wounds a pop. So be careful. Pardon me. I seem to have a little bit of a cold at the moment. In the middle of summer. Great. Anyway, back to the article. Okay, this is where we're going to start really seeing some good firepower from Dark Eldar. All their vehicles have a 5+ invulnerable save versus shooting, straight up. So, it'll be interesting to see what armor save they get. But I imagine if you're going to shoot a Dark Eldar Raider with a las cannon, you're going to just remove its armor save, but it will have a 5+ invulnerable save. I reckon that 5+ invulnerable save is going to get used more than the Dark Eldar's armor saves. I imagine that'll be the case. The big news, though, is that Dark Eldar vehicles ignore the penalty for moving and shooting with heavy weapons. So normally, Dark Eldar, normal vehicles would move if it was, let's say it's like a Space Marine Razorback. If it moves, it's -1 to hit, which means it's only hitting on 4+. Dark Eldar ignore that. That means those Raiders those Ravagers, those Venoms will be black. There's no disadvantage to moving them full tilt. They will be coming at you turn 1. Full tilt. They'll be blasting out insane levels of firepower. And they will be accurately hitting you. I can imagine now Dark Eldar are going to be doing major drive-bys. Major drive-bys. I can see in my head now, I can see a good Dark Eldar sort of spam tactic coming into my head is going to be, you're going to have 3 Ravagers, 3 Raiders with Warriors, and 3 Raiders with Witches, or other close combat units. And what's going to happen is, at the beginning of the turn, everything is going to blast forwards. You're going to be right on top of you, and they're going to unload absolutely everything, point blank firepower into you, shred as much as possible, and then the Witches are going to descend. And the Witches are going to start chopping and chopping and chopping, and it is going to be nasty. We'll get on to Witches in a second, guys. They have received quite a big buff. Anyway, let's power on. Incubi. What to say about Incubi? They are hard as nails now. Well, that's not true. They are going to hit hard as nails. They have +1 strength on their weapons, which means most of the time Incubi are going to be wounding things on 4s or 3s, which is great. And they are AP -3. So that's really powerful. The Sergeant also gets a little bonus that if he gets a to wound roll of 6, he gets +2 damage, which means an Incubi leader who gets 3 attacks on the charge, 3 attacks, just say, if he hits and wounds and gets 3 6s on his to wound, he'll be putting down 9 wounds from a single guy, and that's just a Sergeant. So I think Incubi aren't going to be as much of a problem for us guard players, because most of our models are going to be 1 wound anyway. So if I'm going to be honest with you, I wouldn't worry too much about Incubi as a guard player. They're designed for punching through hard-hitting units, okay? However, they're still powerful. Don't get me wrong, they're still powerful. But I don't think we need to be scared of them. However, Witches are going to be really bad for us now, guys. I'm going to cover Witches pretty quickly, right? Number 1. In close combat, they get a 4+ invulnerable save. That means they are going to be really hard to bayonet charge down, guys. Really hard. Their attacks now have -1 AP. So all Witches are now going to be reducing your armor save by 1. That's going to shred our flak armor real quick. They also have a special rule called no escape. Okay? No escape means if you want to retreat from, let's say you've got a blob of guys or a few squads of guys that have been tied up by some Witches. In your movement phase, if you want to retreat from, because you can fall back out of combat, you have to roll. You and your opponent have a dice roll off. So he rolls a dice and you roll a dice. If you beat his dice roll, you get to fall back. If you draw, or the Dark Eldar Witches beat you on the dice roll, you can't fall back. You stay locked in combat. That's why I mentioned Witches before in that tactic that I can see Dark Eldar players using. I can see Dark Eldar players destroying a front line, descending with the Witches, getting the Witches stuck in combat, because there's about a 60% chance that you won't be able to escape from them. I believe it's 58% that you won't escape. And then you will not be able to target those Witches, and those Witches are going to start rolling up your line. So, wow. They've said that it's going to be really useful against those Tau Crisis suits that we were talking about in another episode, where they can just fall back and do bullshit OP Tau bullshit. Now, there's a good chance that Dark Eldar players will just descend upon those battle suits and try and keep them in place. It's not a guaranteed tactic. Of course, you've got to win or draw that roll off. But I think it gives Witches a really good chance. It means Witches are going to be they're going to be durable in close combat, 4+ save. They're going to just be ignoring half the damage they take. They're going to be cutting through people's armor. Space Marines are not going to enjoy only having a 4+ armor save against witches. They're going to be putting out a hell of a lot of attacks. I can imagine each witch model will be putting out 3 attacks. That's what I reckon. And you're going to struggle to escape from them. So, let's wrap this up. What does this mean overall for the Guard? It means that, again, guys, I cannot stress this enough. We are going to get hit hard turn 1. Against most armies, the Guard are able to sort of get away with turn 1, you know, in 7th edition, get away with light turn 1 casualties. I mean, Tau and, you know, and Eldar being an exception. Because, well, you know, most of the enemy's firepower won't be able to be brought to bear. It's looking increasingly so, guys, that turn 1 is going to be absolutely brutal for both, for all sides, but especially for the Guard. Turn 1 is going to be, if your opponent gets turn 1 against you, you're just going to have to accept. Your front rank of dudes, they're dead. You just got to accept this now. So, the Dark Eldar really, really personify this new 8th edition. I've seen a lot of Dark Eldar players not too happy with these reveals. I don't think they're really understanding. Dark Eldar, literally, they personify what I believe 8th edition is going to be. Turn 1, smash and grab. That's what it's going to be. I think Dark Eldar are going to be the masters of turn 1, in your face, fuck you up, and you're going to spend the remaining turns just scrabbling to hold on. It's going to get to the end of the game, and the Dark Eldar are going to be battered, but in control. So, potential sort of hypothetical tactics for defeating the Dark Eldar as Guard players have, as always, have a front line of guys who are just willing to write off as acceptable casualties. Let your front line die, then hard counter attack. First rank fire, second rank fire, exterminator autocannons, smash them back. I think that if the enemy gets turn 1 on us as Dark Eldar, they're going to smash us, and we're going to have our turn 1, our counter attack is going to be really, really important. I think it's going to be really important to stop a Dark Eldar smash and grab. You're going to have to just level those las guns, rack those heavy bolters, and just hope to the Emperor that you can blast them back enough turn 1. Because if you don't do it, they're just going to do it to you again the next turn, and you won't recover. I don't think an Imperial Guard gun line will be able to survive 2 turns of Dark Eldar smashy. They're going to have so much firepower, guys, and it's going to be in your face turn 1. I honestly think, I'm going to wrap this up now, this is my sign off, I honestly believe that Dark Eldar will be able to put out more turn 1 firepower than Tau, because they're going to be in your face doing it. Tau, a lot of their firepower will still be at long range, pot shots. A lot of Tau are going to be, 1 shot per rifle. Dark Eldar are going to be in your face, 2 shots per rifle, then they're going to fuck you up. So, hope you guys enjoyed this video. What do you guys think of the new Dark Eldar reveals? I think they're really good. I think there's a few people that have been a bit too salty about them, but I think they're going to be really powerful, and they're going to be a genuine force that Guard are going to struggle to contend with. So, tell me what you guys think. Have you guys got any sort of initial thinkings how we're going to stop these Dark Eldar from taking us away and making us their sex slaves? I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. So thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.